Aqua Jet. That one move on that one character who can't do. It'd be pretty busted on any other character, but it gives Empoleon new life, as optimal play with him uses this move a lot thanks to its many uses. For those who only know me for my Sceptile, I'm considered the best Empoleon player in the world. If you're interested in seeing my Empoleon in action, I highly recommend watching Frostfire 2020, where I went with just Empoleon the entire event, even fighting other top level players such as Shadowcat and Mutator. Anyway, enough shilling. For now. Back to the funny broken 5A move. Being a quirky character, Empoleon's 5A Aqua Jet is a mid-low rushdown tool that goes almost full screen while keeping him airborne. It's able to punish foes from afar and is a somewhat quick, albeit risky, move to use up close. Risk versus reward is big with this move, as Aqua Jet has 3 distinct levels. Contrary to popular belief, what determines the level isn't based on distance, well, sort of. It's actually based on time. Level 1 Aqua Jet is the weakest and comes out on frame 15, making it the quickest variation and delivering 2 hits. Starting on frame 19 is when level 2 occurs, being the middle ground with no distinct weakness while dealing 3 hits. Finally, level 3 is the strongest but takes the longest to come out at frame 27. It deals 5 hits and possesses enough hit stun for certain follow-up moves to combo after it that levels 1 and 2 cannot. It's also the only version of the attack that isn't punishable on block with no follow-up, being only -4. On air hits with no follow-up, Empoleon is capable of comboing level 3 Aqua Jet and only level 3 into other moves such as 2Y or Drill Peck. Now you might ask, why is it important that it's based on time and not distance? It seems like it's the same thing, you freaking idiot. But knowing this can help out a lot for Okies. Since it's all about timing, you can consistently do level 3 Aqua Jets on the opponent's wake up without needing to get distance between yourselves. It being based on frames also all around benefits Empoleon if you or your opponent are pushing each other around as the move comes out. On frame 5 and throughout the entire move, Empoleon is immune to lows, allowing him to go over common long-range pokes or projectiles like Lucario's 2Y or Pikachu's Thunderbolt. Without a follow-up attack, each level phase shifts from field to duel or deals 3 phase shift points, or PSP, when in duel phase. For those unaware, PSP is essentially a hidden point system that determines when duel phase shifts back to field. Once PSP reaches 12 points, that's when it shifts. Normal grabs, burst attacks, and certain other attacks automatically have 12 PSP, so they always shift. Returning to the main move you're here to learn about, Aqua Jet's uses are varied with all these boons. It can be used to close the gap and put sudden pressure on the opponent, with punish attacks other characters might not be able to, avoid attacks besides lows from its sheer speed, and get Empoleon in after a shift to field. Anyway, back to what I said about follow-up attacks. Empoleon's gimmick is his ability to cancel Aqua Jet, as well as Defog and Drill Peck, into one of 4 different follow-up attacks depending on the button inputted afterwards. The Y input, Cut, is a wide-range true mid-attack that comes out on frame 19 and can catch jumps while keeping Empoleon in the air when it hits. This knocks down opponents or wall splats them if near a wall, allowing powerful combo opportunities. While -4 on block, the pushback from Cut is great, making it a lot safer to keep up the pressure, especially in the corner. Waterfall is the X input, and it's his fastest follow-up at frame 11. While being a very punishable high attack when blocked, it can catch jumps and is immune to mid-highs and highs on frame 1. Usually though, it's best used as a reliable ender for combos, but its high immunities can be used on reaction to turn the tables. It's also the only variation that's a true block string off of level 3 Aqua Jet, as well as the only one that doesn't break the opponent's guard. Oh, and this is also a thing. The A input, aka Rock Smash, is a true mid that is active on frame 31 and grants Empoleon counter armor on frame 1 until around when the first hit comes out. While slow, it leaves them +4 if blocked, and pushes them away if not in the corner. It also applies a defense debuff and pierces through the opponent's counter state. Lastly, as niche uses it has, it can stop projectiles as the rock comes up, and it shoots tiny pebble projectiles that can briefly protect Empoleon if he whiffs the main second hit. Even more unlikely to happen, if landing an air hit, it can lead to a wall combo if close enough. And also... yeah. The last follow-up move is performed with B, Surf. Surf is a mid-low that rushes Empoleon forward with a constant wave, and comes out on frame 27 while keeping him in the air. It pushes the opponent even if they block, though it is -8 if they do. It's another combo ender, though it also erases projectiles as Empoleon rides in, is immune to lows on frame 1, and tracks opponents in field phase. As a final note, Empoleon can cancel Surf with block and instead perform nothing or an aerial attack. The window for this is pretty generous, and depending on the timing, can make Empoleon jump higher and farther, even for cross-ups. It's important to learn the uses of these moves, as most of the time, even if one blocks Aqua Jet, a follow-up is good to use for pressure and reads. Against counterattacks, Waterfall and Rock Smash are useful for beating out fully charged and early release counters respectively. Level 1 and 2 Aqua Jet always combo into Cut and Waterfall, though resetting with Rock Smash is another valuable option. Surf on the other hand can deal lots of chip, so it's really up to preference if you're willing to risk getting counterattacked. Meanwhile, level 3 Aqua Jet combos into every follow-up, including surf cancelled air moves like JY, Steel Wing, and JX, though only the latter in field phase. All of this applies to air hits as well. Also, while I won't go too deep in detail, Steel Wing notably pierces and knocks opponents down or wall splats them as a combo starter if close to the corner. Also at certain angles, you can get 2, which is sick. Each hit is 2 PSP, and the second one is useful for cross-ups. Lastly, every main follow-up after Aqua Jet uses up 4 PSP, besides Cut, which does 3. They also all phase shift from field to duel. One of the best follow-ups after a level 3 Aqua Jet confirm is Rock Smash due to its debuff and knockdown. But mashing and hoping the opponent gets hit by Aqua Jet or Rock Smash doesn't cut it a lot of the time. Luckily, Empoleon has great moves that can link into Aqua Jet. First off, in Duel Phase, his JY sends out 3 projectiles, and Empoleon can change how many there are and how they are launched forward through different timings and his many types of slide jumps. The amount of projectiles and the angle they come in also help prevent opponents from trying to just jump. And Empoleon recovers quick enough that he can react to if they get hit or not to confirm into Aqua Jet, including counterattacks. His other main dual move is his reverse slides Y attack, which sends out 2 slow projectiles along the ground. While they don't have JY's angle and Empoleon doesn't recover from it quite as fast, their slow speed makes up for it. Not only can he combo off of the pellets themselves, but if the opponent tries to jump over them, it's possible for Empoleon to catch their landing with Aqua Jet anyway. Another notable trait they possess is the spacing between the 2 projectiles. Normally, they are shot in space like this. But when full screen or when Empoleon can't move back any further, they become closer to one another. This can help lock down opponents in a slightly different way, as the normal spacing isn't a true block string, while this one is. Aqua Jet comboing also works in field too, though noticeably more awkward, as is the projectile spacing. At the very least, there are 3 fast projectiles instead of 2 slow ones. And speaking of field phase, in there, neutral Y and sometimes side Y function kind of the same as his dual projectiles, and while riskier, can lead to great momentum if the phase is won. Another option, when fighting those in the air, is back Y, as it pops them up and can set up for level 3. If they're too close for level 3, back Y combos into itself, meaning you can drag them further and set it up anyway. Next, there are a good amount of supports that assist Empoleon similarly to the attacks already mentioned. Emolga's Shockwave is a full-screen piercing beam that launches the opponent away, which can help set up for level 3 Aqua Jet if they're not too far away, as well as being able to do so in the middle of other combos. The speed debuff applied also in general helps Empoleon get in for future interactions. Fury Cutter for Farfetch pushes them similarly and has less scaling, and while it doesn't give a debuff, its block pressure makes up for it so that Empoleon can get in if in range anyway. As a more niche pick, Cubone's Bone Ring can both push and pull the opponent, and it's done in a way that Empoleon can land level 3 Aqua Jet when they're pushed away if close enough before the bone comes back. Air hits also lead to Aqua Jet for all of these. This last support is different, as it helps Empoleon against airborne opponents instead of just launching them forward in various ways. Rotom's Thunder Shock stuns those in the air, piercing while giving them a speed debuff, perfectly setting Empoleon up for Aqua Jet. It does so for a while too, granting Empoleon enough time to space to move correctly. And like the other supports, it can be used in combos to set this up. Empoleon does have one final move that isn't too useful on its own against most of the cast, but against Mewtwo, Shadow Mewtwo, Sceptile, Blaziken, and Aegislash it can come in handy. 6YY into Aqua Jet normally doesn't get to level 3, but in this case, it does. Against either Mewtwo though, this doesn't work if they're in burst due to hurtbox changes. However, 6YY is incredibly risky, so it's best to utilize this move during combos that can use 6YY without worry. And speaking of which, when it comes to combos, there's a lot of different routes Empoleon can do with this one move. Just so I'm not rambling on about nothing, this is just going to be a mini montage. Though, this will be split into combos that start off with Aqua Jet, and combos that just have Empoleon use it in the middle or the end of it. The Aqua Jet level will be displayed as well, and the damage shown doesn't include the 30 wall splat damage after a shift. I will mention when it goes from one to the other, but for now, here are some Aqua Jet starter combos. Certain characters in the wall, like Machamp, won't get comboed from 2 hold X to 5Y, so be sure to just perform 5Y in those cases, which does slightly less. Also be aware that on Chandelure, neither of these follow-ups will work. Other combos depend on character size, which is much more prominent coming up. And here are combos that use Aqua Jet in some way, shape, or form. Aqua Jet isn't just good for dealing damage on hit, it delivers a considerable amount of chip damage as well. It does 25, 35, and 45 chip for each level respectively. This is not including the follow-up attacks, which can range from 30 to 60 added chip if they choose to continue guarding. I haven't mentioned this until now, but a lot of Empoleon's damage comes from chip. His other Pokemon moves also deal ludicrous chip damage, but for the sake of not getting off topic, just keep in mind that this makes him all the more deadly. There are many ways to either force the opponent to block or risk taking the full force of Empoleon's Aqua Jet or having their guard broken, mainly from far away or through intentional resets. Moves mentioned before such as JY, Reverse Slide Y, Neutral Y, and Side Y help lock them down like they would if the attack connected. The same goes for Emolga, Farfetch'd, and Cubone, but so can Snivy, Lapras, Frogadier, and others. Personal attack buffing supports or offensive defense lowering supports also do more chip damage. If Empoleon knocks him down from mid to full screen with any of those options, he gets a big opportunity for chip damage while maintaining momentum. Certain knockdowns come from wall combo resets into Reverse Slide Y, saving PSP in the process too. Funnily enough, the amount of damage from certain finished wall combos is close to or the exact same as if you set up a level 3 Aqua Jet Oki and they block it. And this isn't even counting the added potential chip for the follow-up attack. Empoleon likes to make the most of what he can get, including keeping the opponent in the corner for more pressure and chip opportunities, so it's entirely in his favor to keep them trapped. Sure, certain moves like Lucario's Extreme Speed and Shadow Mewtwo's Teleport can avoid and punish, but it's a big risk on their part. They could just as easily be protected and take more damage as a result. In general, any sort of knockdown can result in Aqua Jet chip thanks to it being based on timing. During most ground combos that go into level 1 or 2 Aqua Jet, you can force the opponent to either block or take a Rock Smash. The Rock Smash gives space and deals more damage than the other follow-ups while similarly reducing the amount of PSP Empoleon uses. However, from level 1 to Rock Smash, characters like Sceptile, Machamp, and Suicune can jump and punish Empoleon. There are a few unique ways other characters can dodge it too, and of course stuff like Umbreon and Burst Declare can also get them out, as well as certain burst attacks. In conclusion, Empoleon flourishes with the combined use of chip, low PSP combos, and pressure that Aqua Jet grants him. Empoleon requires 150cc to activate Synergy Burst, a tier that is the second fastest in the game, and Aqua Jet is one of the few moves that changes as Empoleon enters it. In fact, it's the main draw of his burst mode, as Aqua Jet is always level 3 from any timing. This makes it a multi-hitting frame 15 move that can lead into a full combo. Actually, it's more like this could be considered level 4, as there are some differences in comparison to level 3. While it's -8 on block with no follow-up now, that's more than made up for by the freezing effect it leaves on the opponent if a follow-up is done. In this state, they can be comboed into Empoleon's burst attack, Deep Blue Monarch. Not only this, but it can make for a surprising mix-up if Aqua Jet does hit their guard, since if they keep blocking, Deep Blue Monarch is a grab, hitting them through it. If they decide to jump to avoid the burst attack, Cut can catch him. JX also becomes capable of comboing after a surf cancel, something it could only normally do in field phase. This leads to new combo routes that drag the opponent across the stage, something Aqua Jet was already pretty good at doing. Aqua Jet with the JX combo can literally create a scenario where Empoleon was cornered, but now the opponent is at the wall instead. This only doesn't work on Darkrai as a heads up, though Suicune can be kinda tough if the GX isn't delayed enough. Finally, an always level 3 Aqua Jet means stronger pressure with multiple back-to-back or reset options at the wall. For resets, so long as you perform a follow-up like a surf cancel, Empoleon can deal a ton of damage during a wall combo without using up little to no PSP. Synergy Burst Aqua Jet doesn't really have a downside towards it, besides certain weaknesses that it shares with normal Aqua Jet. And that leads me to exactly that. Aqua Jet's hitbox isn't the greatest, to say the least. This is because Empoleon's hitbox is not exactly where his head is, leading to interactions where Empoleon's head faces through the opponent, but then he gets hit first. Though, it should be mentioned this also does help get level 3 Aqua Jet sometimes, since it takes longer for the hitbox to reach the opponent. However, this hitbox issue extends a little further. The visuals don't match the hitbox since it emphasizes Empoleon's whole head, which can lead to unfortunate whiffs if one misjudges the distance needed to hit it. Also, the hits seemingly have blind spots, where the opponent can jump in between them at points, which is most noticeable if timed on an Oki for level 3. And related to level 3, since it takes a full 27 frames for it to come out, and the fact that he's charging for full screen with it most of the time, this makes it reactable. While reacting with block is still good for Empoleon, if they do it with counterattack or a similar move that can lead to a favorable mix-up for them, or a straight up punish, Empoleon is put in an awkward position. As mentioned before, levels 1 and 2 Aqua Jet are -20 and -16 punishable on block without a follow-up. But level 1 is also very slow with its follow-up, so opponents are able to attack, grab, jump over, or even backdash many of Empoleon's options. Though, there are follow-ups that can beat all of these options. Meanwhile, in field phase, it becomes a lot easier to dodge Aqua Jet if the opponent is moving left or right due to its linear path. Unless, of course, Empoleon finds a way to keep them in place, whether that's with neutral Y, side Y, or a support. Also, sometimes this happens, which is neat, to say the least. Deja Vu! Finally, in very rare instances, the hits of Aqua Jet cannot combo into each other and just drop altogether. This mostly occurs in field phase due to opponents being able to move left and right, but it can happen in duel, though really only in the air. Even rarer though is that this can be beneficial for Empoleon if it happens on block or counterattack, as we will perform his follow-up or get out of it much quicker. So, despite the many weaknesses mentioned, Aqua Jet is still kinda busted, but it's okay because it's on a character who struggles a bit like Empoleon. Once you understand the move, it's easy to get around its faults and make its advantages more pronounced. I know this was a long video, but Aqua Jet is such an important tool for Empoleon that I kinda had to, even if it meant getting incredibly deep into it and the moves related to it. But anyway, thanks for watching this guide on Empoleon's Aqua Jet. I hope y'all who aspire to use this character learned a lot from this. I tried to make this guide in a way that non-Empoleon mains could watch it too and learn more about him, since he's a really sick character who doesn't get a lot of credit, I feel. And is one not too many know how to fight, so I hope that's helped them too. But yeah, that's it really. Y'all can find me on Twitch and Twitter if you're interested in what I'm up to. Links in the description, including links to the Pokken Discord and frame data sheet, which has all the technical info I mentioned here and more. And if you want to see more videos on Pokken, be sure to subscribe. Again, hope you all enjoyed. See you next time. Also, 4X gang, 4X gang, 4X gang, rise!